Greetings from Castle Goring. I am afraid I am under tremendous pressure in terms of time, which sadly I cannot create. So without further ado, I am going to plunge right in. Today there's going to be a combination of comments and questions, because some of your comments are so wonderful that I really see no merit in me speaking for you when you can speak for yourselves and indeed add tremendously to this conversation without my interference. So, Karen Hetherington says, I am of the firm belief the double rainbow witnessed by many outside Buckingham Palace at the passing of our Majesty the Queen was from God. I sincerely feel Queen Elizabeth II was highly esteemed by God. Our Queen had a deep, living faith, and her life was a testament to those Christian principles. I couldn't agree more. And let us not forget that not only was there the rainbows outside of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, but also as the procession progressed down the Royal Mall to St. Giles Cathedral on a very grim, bleak day, there was one ray of sunshine that came and directly lighted upon and lighted up the Queen's coffin. Coincidence or omens? I leave it up to you to decide what you think. But Ingrid Peterson says, Lady C saw your GB tribute to Princess Anne's work for and devotion to the royal family. You looked and spoke beautifully. Thank you very much. One does try. Thanks for talking about the rainbows over Balmoral and the palace as Queen Elizabeth was dying. Unless photoshopped, to me the rainbows were miracles sent by Britain's old gods for the Queen to pass over. If you've read this far, now comes the corker. Can you please comment on US NPR, a quasi-government radio station, reporting on King Charles's speech and in the same breath asking, would he be able to handle Meghan Markle's influence on the Commonwealth? No kidding. And she was the only royal mentioned beside King Charles. Are we underestimating who, what, where, how is behind this mere LA grifter? Ingrid Peterson, this is not really the time or the place, but I will make the point and move on. As the Queen would have put it, there are dark forces at play. And whether that creature, you know, the one who on the walkabout kept on, and I don't know if you noticed, incidentally, the hair was two completely different lengths. There was this blunt cut, then there was that blunt cut. Well, I suppose the Turkish virgins ran out of hair, because unless I'm a monkey's aunt, there is no way that that hair was her own. Maybe she wasn't used to it. Maybe that's why she had to keep on playing with it, hanging on to it, hoping it would hang on to her scalp. I just make that little rather catty aside for what it's worth. But yes, whether Meghan is the sole creator of all of this. And I actually believe she is the sole creator of all of the mischief that has happened. She has connected with people in whose interest it is to defame this country, this country's political process, this country's monarchy, this country's parliamentary process, this country's genuine cultural assimilation, this country's inclusivity, and to deny that this country has achieved all that it has achieved. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. This is shaping up to be rather less than just black against white, and it is shaping up to be the US against the UK. Not that this is the official policy of the US state, nor of the mass of the US people. I think that's all I need to say for the moment, because we need to be mindful of the occasion of which we are all a part. PQ says, Lady C, I have 2 questions for you. Maybe please have your comments on the King, his sons, and the other members of the royal family who walked behind the Queen's coffin from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Great Hall. And what is your stand on the police arresting the man who shouted out that insult in Edinburgh? PQ, thank you very much for the questions. I think they're both very apposite. Oh, what can I say? When Queen Mary died, the Duke of Windsor took part in the procession walking behind the coffin. He also did it when George VI died. It is protocol for even black sheep to be members of the herd of the farm upon which they were born. May I put it like that? I think more than that need not be said at this juncture. Just as how there were disapprovals, manifestations of disapproval, I should say, with regard to Harry and Meghan from the crowd at Windsor Castle, which have been glossed over, although people on the internet have looked at the footage and posted some very pointed snubs to Meghan. And I did say in a previous video that there were mutterings on the ground. Obviously, there have been mutterings on the ground as well, which I would like at this point to draw a veil over, in the interests of respect for Her Majesty, the Queen, her late Majesty, I should say, and the King, and Prince William, and all the other loyal members of the royal family who want this funeral and all the obsequies attached to it to go off without undue controversy. It is in the interest of Meghan and Harry solely to have more controversy than is necessary, and indeed to have any controversy whatsoever. So, in the interests of reality, one has to acknowledge what is going on and move on quickly. Insofar as the police in Edinburgh arresting the rather distasteful man who's rather inappropriately shouted out a comment which I don't happen to agree with, I think the police have over-egged the pudding. I sincerely hope they drop the charges against him. He got the punishment he deserved, which was the crowd surrounding him turned on him, as they ought to have, and I hope they gave him a few good blows that we know nothing about. But he is entitled to his opinion. Actually, I take that back. Nobody should have given him a blow. I take that back. But certainly, people should have made their displeasure known without connecting, because really, my right to hit you ends where your nose begins. So I take that back. I said that in the heat of the moment, and I'm keeping it in to show that people do sometimes jump the gun and say and do things that they necessarily wouldn't say or do, and indeed don't always reflect their true beliefs when they are under pressure. He had a right to make the comment. I thought it was tasteless, and he shouldn't have made it when he did, out of respect to not only the Queen and her family and Prince Andrew, but also to everybody surrounding him. It was disrespectful to everybody who was grieving. However, if you believe in free speech, even the tasteless have a right to make their contribution, even in a tasteless manner. And I would hope that the police will withdraw the charges. However, I get why they have charged him, because there are security issues involved, and there have been threatened disruptions by organizations like Extinction Rebellion to try to disrupt the funeral. And not only are the notables concerned having their security threatened, but the people on the ground are also having their security threatened. And it's also threatening, in fact, it's attacking the rights of people to grieve and to show their grief. So for all of those reasons, I get why he has been charged, to discourage other protesters. I mean, there is a time and place for everything. And a funeral is not, and funeral obsequies and funeral proceedings and funeral ceremonials are not the time and place for protesters. Yvonne says, first, let me preface my comments with a bit of a disclaimer. And this I am reading out because I think it is an important comment that encapsulates an awful lot of what is going on and says it beautifully. I am a Black American female, 76 years old. I have never left comments to YouTube videos before, I had never heard of you before stumbling onto this video by accident a few minutes ago, after spending the entire last 2 days watching both the full versions of the Queen's journey from Balmoral to Edinburgh, all of King Charles's journey and speeches since becoming king upon the death of his mother, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Princess Anne's journey accompanying her mother from Balmoral back to London, and the walkabouts of William and Kate along with the Sussexes. Your video was the last thing I watched immediately following the Queen's return to Buckingham Palace. At this point, I am both truly saddened and relieved. Why? Because there was not a single thing you said that I did not agree with. Big block capitals exclamation mark. Saddened because you confirmed all my misgivings about things I just didn't want to believe I was witnessing. Saddened because the Queen did not deserve to have her final farewell marred by anything. Not anything or anyone, big block capitals exclamation mark. For 70 years she kept her word, exclamation mark. And she was a great lady, block capitals, exclamation mark. And she had earned the right and deserved to be celebrated as such, exclamation mark. And anyone, block capitals, who would stoop so low as to take 1 second away from her final farewell, in my opinion, does not deserve my respect or the respect of her family or her country. She, block capitals, was and will forever be greater, more loved and long remembered, all in block capitals with exclamation marks, than those who would dare to steal 1 moment of her glory. Now that she can no longer defend herself, and while her family has the class and dignity to endure that disrespect in silence, will never come close to the person she was. Relieved after hearing your comments and assessment of Prince Andrew's true situation, I had known in my heart there was more to this story than the public was being told. The media threw him under the bus, and he quietly fell on his sword and took the hit for the team. I am happy you were brave enough to shed some light on his situation that the media would never have done. It would not have sold papers. As for the Sussexes, they have dug themselves into a hole and then painted themselves into a corner that they may never recover from. Sad, exclamation mark. Unfortunately, Harry will be the biggest loser. Whether or not Meghan is the cause of all this angst between Harry and the royal family is true or not, it saddens me to think that not only has he lost his mother, but now his brother, his father, his nieces, nephews, cousins, aunts and uncles, in essence, his entire family. Exclamation mark. I knew the minute that King Charles said he wished Harry and Meghan happiness as they begin their life overseas, block capitals. He was closing the door on them. How sad. I do not believe they will ever be welcome in England again. Persona non grata. As we say in America, you asked for it, you got Toyota. I've never heard that expression before. I find it very entertaining, however. I personally feel sorry for father, son, and brother. Their relationship will never be the same. Whether Meghan is to blame or not is inconsequential. That Titanic has sailed. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men will never be able to put that loving relationship back together again. And who will be the biggest losers? The Sussexes' two children. The children will be collateral damage, not of their own making, and who have no voice in the outcome. Again, sad, big block capitals, exclamation mark. Relieved, because many of the questions I had wrestled with while watching these last days of Her Majesty's journey back to Buckingham Palace unfold, you confirmed were not just in my mind, but really happening, which only added to my sadness. Thank you for your insight. It has really helped me see this entire royal family dynamic in a more realistic light. It confirms my belief that when all is said and done, they too are just like the rest of us, human, flesh and blood, with joys, triumphs, sorrows, griefs, and regrets. My sincere condolences to the entire royal family. And even though I am an American, I can say from the bottom of my heart, long live the King. Well, I certainly couldn't have said it better. And I have read it out. And I think it is appropriate at this point to reassure the tens of thousands of people who have contacted me in various ways, asking me to pass on their condolences to the royal family, to assure you that I have passed on your condolences on your behalf to each and every member of the royal family who deserves condolences. I think you will therefore appreciate that there are two people who I have excluded from that number. But putting that aside, yes, you have asked me to do it, and I have done it. Helena A. says, as a Trinidadian, I am disappointed to learn that the individual who wrote that vitriolic assessment is half-Trini. We are culturally and racially diverse and tolerant. I disassociate myself from that comment. By the way, I have been working on the continent of Africa for years, studied history, law in London, and am very mixed race. I will never condone such a hateful statement! Exclamation mark. Thank you for that, Helena A. Dorothy Wilms says, I also find this professor despicable. All her students should boycott her class, and if you can tell me the name of her university, I will write the Chancellor requesting her removal. I consider this a hate crime. Block capitals. Obviously, the lady has never followed the golden rule. This is one time I would like to know what President Biden has to say. Resounding silence, as is appropriate in this circumstance. The president, irrespective of any personal or political views he might have, does not have the right to intervene and comment upon a hateful comment, an inappropriate comment, an appropriate comment issued by a university professor. Her name is Uyu Anya, and I would suggest you Google her. Uyuanya. I would prefer that you Google her. You get the information as to which college she has a professorship at, and that you write the letter yourself. I would also encourage anybody who wishes to express themselves to the Board of Governors at the university to do so. Santoshi Reddy says, Lady C, please respond to Oprah's comments. And Naw Sterling says, and I'm going to read these two because there's so many that I thought I'd give a flavour of the fact that they're more than one. What do you say about Oprah's backtracking on her bombshell interview with Harry and Meghan? My vote is Oprah is using her PR to cleat her journalism failure. Well, what do I say about Oprah's comment? I think it's really rather entertaining and elucidatory of her stance and her character, that she would seek to now say that she encourages the family to be harmonious when she made tens of millions of dollars and Harry and Meghan made a shed load of money, betraying his family's interests and trust. You know, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I had a very unpleasant experience with the Oprah show in 1993 when they wanted me to appear on it. And I said I couldn't because I had already been committed to another show. And they threatened and blackmailed me. Well, they tried to blackmail me by threatening me, saying that I needed to, you need to understand, if you tell us no, we're never going to approach you again, sort of thing. And I explained to the producer concerned that I had given my word of honor, and having given it, I was honor bound to fulfill the obligation I had undertaken to fulfill. And I also informed her that I didn't give a continental damn whether I was never asked again. And in fact, I would recommend that they never ask me again, because if that was the way they went about trying to get guests onto their show, I wanted no part of it or of them. Well, they never did get in touch with me again. I'm not saying that my comment had anything to do with it. I suspect they took strong exception to the fact that I had had the temerity to tell the great Oprah no, as if she were a monarch from the medieval age or the classical age, when if you were invited and you declined the invitation, you were never asked again. I mean, these people are so delusional and so arriviste and vulgar in their demeanor and their attitudes, and they're so punitive with it. If you don't bend a knee before their greatness, I mean, I tell you, it's this sort of attitude why most butlers don't want to work for newly rich people. They prefer to work for people who come from money and know how to behave and have the correct attitudes. I think Oprah Winfrey is a joke. I think she is a hypocrite. I think she is an opportunist. I think she is a vulgarian. I think any early success she had, and she did have genuine success. She, of her own efforts, became a billionairess, a black billionairess, of the support of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, of white people as well. I think she has pushed a destructive, racist agenda, and she realizes the mistake she made, and she is trying to backtrack. But like all people who are unworthy, she doesn't backtrack overtly and apologize and say mea culpa. She covertly backtracks with all of her mealy-mouthed hypocritical nonsense. D.W. says, Dear Lady C, my heart is breaking at the injustice and frustration at seeing this evening's Daily Mail headline photograph of King Charles on the red carpeted stairs at Buckingham Palace as he is about to receive the Queen's coffin. Right behind him on the stairs are Meghan Markle and Harry, who clearly knew the photographers were there, as they are seen up close through the windows where the photograph was taken. It is totally remiss of the courtiers and palace staff. The new Prince and Princess of Wales should have been behind King Charles. Catherine is now the second lady in the land after the Queen Consort Camilla, and now this photograph will be forever in Meghan's media stream, in the Netflix series and in Harry's book. My heart is breaking in rage that this has happened. After all their lies and attacks on the Queen, the royal family, the British public, and the Commonwealth that they have inflicted. May we have your thoughts or any inside info as to why this occurred? Thank you. Well, remember, this is a family. These are people, human beings. And it is almost impossible to contain an uncontainable, pushy opportunist like Meghan Markle. She pushes her way forward at every turn. And I am reliably informed by people who have witnessed her misconduct over the years that she has been a member of the royal family, that the royals, the courtiers, and their advisors, friends, and supporters would have to create endless scenes to prevent her from, at each turn that she has the opportunity, breaching protocol, pushing herself forward, dragging Harry along, and making sure that she is in the frame. I hope that explains the dilemma. Catherine Torsch says, what are the chances that Prince Harry is brainwashed? The short answer is very high. Do you remember that Getty girl? No, it wasn't the Getty girl. It was the Hearst girl, whatever her name was. I don't remember it offhand. Who was kidnapped. She joined the Symbionese Liberation Army. She held up a bank with a gun. She went to prison. She was a victim of Stockholm Syndrome and became a perpetrator, I refer you to William Shakespeare's Othello, to which I have often alluded in this rather regrettable ongoing saga, how Othello was in love with his pure, innocent, lovely wife, Desdemona, whom he had utmost respect for, and how Iago dropped poison in his air bit by bit, turned his head, and he killed her. It's a great, great classical play. Classical in terms of the classics, not in terms of the period. The period was Elizabethan. I just make that distinction for what it's worth, as the word classical has several meanings. There is no doubt that the Harry that Meghan Markle met did not share many of the sentiments he now purveys, promulgates, and protests about. As he himself said, he didn't know he was trapped until she informed him of the fact and opened his eyes. That one comment alone would tell somebody who is perceptive that there is a strong likelihood that Meghan Markle has brainwashed Harry, who is less strong-willed, less intelligent, and originally less malevolent than Meghan. However, when you get a situation like this, where there is a genuine folie à deux, we need to examine the reality. And the reality is that if there wasn't fertile ground for Meghan's seed to sprout and bear fruit, none of this would be happening. Harry is complicit. He may be brainwashed, but he is over the age of consent. He needs to assume responsibility for his actions. This is one of the fundamental tenets of the 12-step program. You can't blame the substance to which you are addicted for your bad behavior. It may be the trigger, but you are the bullet. You need to stand up, acknowledge what you are, and make recompense wherever you need to. G.A. says, gosh, haven't we all noticed how difficult Meghan is finding it? She must be wanting to end it all. I'm sure she is. Aurora, please bring her. Marty needs to hand over a cushion to Meghan, because Meghan needs to pad herself in more ways than one. Shouldn't we section her for the next week for her own benefit and make sure she gets all the professional care in the UK that she needs? Only side effect of this particular strategy is that she will be out of the limelight while under sedation. Gee, very droll, very witty, very well put, very apposite. Chance would be a fine thing, wouldn't it just? However, the men in white coats would quickly find themselves brown coats, because Meghan has plastered on so much brown face and bronzer. Did you notice the radical difference between the colour of her face, between Windsor Castle's walkabout and arriving at Buckingham Palace? But then again, of course, she's playing to the Uyu Anya racists of this world. She is playing to the dividers. She is playing to the mischief makers. She's playing to the haters. She is playing to the destroyers. And to do that, a woman who, according to her sister Samantha, is fairer skinned than Samantha, walks around with a brown face when it suits her. If blackface is unacceptable, surely mischievous brown face is as well. And in conclusion, I will say, Genster 1 says, Dear Lady C, it's terrible that we are bombarded with all this PR gumph from the Sussex camp. Have you heard that Mimi is prepared to challenge the late Queen's will? Please say it's not so. Well, of course, my dear Genster 1, we're going to be bombarded. We are bombarded on a regular basis from Harry and Meghan's PR people. One day, you have amid scabies saying one thing like Harry and Meghan and William and Harry and blah, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. Then the following day, oh, they've been doing it for months. The wild inconsistency. I have said this for some time now. They have a scattergun approach. They simply throw, they rat-a-tat scenarios so that they will get the attention of the public, that they will remain to the forefront of the news. It is deeply, deeply disturbing. And I, for one, hope that it is brought to an end. It can be brought to an end. It takes courage, it takes conviction, and it takes trust that the average person has seen through these two phonies, because that's what, in my opinion, they are. And their malevolent followers and their mischievous, troublemaking promoters. More than that, at this point, I don't think I should say. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening to this. I hope it has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please keep the questions and comments coming in. Remember, you are an integral part of this process. I can't do this without you. Thank you so much. God bless and goodbye.